Shalom, this is David Ben Shaul from uton.org. Recently I had a friend of mine call me up, and he had an encounter with another person telling him basically that the oral Torah was evil. And he called me up because he's saying, listen, Dave, I need some help. Explain to me what the oral Torah is, so that I can properly defend it where it needs to be defended and not defend it where it shouldn't be. Because the oral traditions, they do have issues. They do have problems. There's no one could argue such a point. But he couldn't really answer or deal with the question, with the objection that this person had as far as what the oral Torah was. So what I did was explain to him that the oral Torah, or I should say, the Torah itself, is actually three parts. There are actually three Torahs. There's not one Torah as many of us think. There's actually three parts to the Torah, or three Torahs. You will see here that there's three Torahs written down. One is written as the Torah itself, the books of Moses, the first 5 books of our Bible. We all know about this. This is what is written down. But understand that the written Torah is not a code of law in and of itself. The written Torah is a guideline. In fact, it's more of a skeleton that flesh needs to be put onto. So how do we put on the flesh to the Torah, to the bones that the Torah has, or to the basic skeleton that the Torah provides? What the way it's done is, first of all, there's something called the Mishnah Torah. The Mishnah Torah, that's just is an oral Torah, just as the Talmud Torah is. The Mishnah Torah is actually an attempt to make the written Torah into or apply the written Torah into the physical world. It's attempting to make the rubber meet the road, to try to explain or to assist in helping the Torah to become a code of law. Now, I use the word a code of law for a very specific reason. Some parts of the Torah, or many parts of the Torah, can be applied in different ways, yet still be valid. So the Mishnah Torah is that attempt to make it applicable to everyday living. The next level is the Talmud, or the Gemara. In fact, Talmud and Gemara mean the same thing. Talmud is Aramaic, and Gemara is the Hebrew equivalent to the Aramaic word Talmud. It talks about the discussions. What the Talmud is, when we hold a volume of Talmud in our hands, what we actually have is a copy of the Mishnah, and a portion of the Mishnah, and then arguments and discussions based upon that Mishnaic portion. So the Gemara is typically open-ended discussions of understanding what the Mishnah is trying to say, which is trying to explain how to apply the Torah in one's life to make the rubber meet the road. So we see a gradual building up that actually takes place. Now, like I said, the Gemara is these open-ended discussions. So when you open up the Talmud and you start taking a look at various arguments, what you're learning is to think. You're learning to discuss. You can disagree with what's on the page. That's perfectly acceptable. You can agree what's on a page, or you can come to a totally different conclusion. This is all permittable. There are very few parts of the Talmud that would be considered not open for discussion. They're all open for discussion. So that's the realization of what the oral Torah is. However, let's be realistic. Unfortunately, it's very easy when dealing with these oral traditions to go overboard and to make them actually usurp the written Torah. So it's very important to keep things in proper perspective, where you're going from the written, then you're going to the application, the Mishnah, and then you go to the discussions of whys for the applications. So they all have a role and a specific purpose, and none should usurp the other. Remember I said in the beginning here, there's actually a fourth one. The fourth one is rabbinics, or the rabbinical halakha that has been put upon the people, burden the people down. I'll give you a perfect example. Chicken. Now, we know from Leviticus 11 that we are not to eat anything in its mother's milk. And there's a rabbinic prohibition that you cannot eat chicken with cheese. Chicken parmesan, let's say. The reality is that's maybe what the rabbis have said. But Mishnah Torah tells us very specifically that if you eat fowl, such as a chicken, with dairy, cheese, or something of that sort, you are not violating the Torah, the written Torah. It actually tells us that. So the Mishnaic Torah, the written Torah, are usurped by rabbinical Torah, the halakha. So that's where the issues come in. Is any of this evil? I think we got to be careful about saying that, because the reality is any religious institution, any sect of any religion has oral traditions. Families have oral traditions. They have customs. Why do we do such things? Well, that's the way my grandmother did it. Well, that's fine. I don't want to do it. Oh no, you have to do it, because that's the way our family has always done it. Well, that's an oral tradition. So we all have oral traditions, whether it is being applied to Torah or not. So I'm hoping that we now have an understanding that there is a written Torah, there is a Mishnaic Torah trying to explain the application of the written Torah, and then there's the discussions of the applications of Torah to further detail within the Gemara or within the Talmud. And then there's rabbinical halakha, which is also burdened on this picture. But no matter how you slice the pie, you always go back to the written Torah. If anything is in violation of written Torah, you don't do it. And there's a lot of oral traditions. There's a lot of oral Torah discussions that are not anti-Torah. Okay, well, I hope you have a good evening, and I hope this opens up some of the understanding of what oral and written Torah is and how they fit together in a proper order. Shalom, shalom.